Well, welcome back, everybody, to Expressions of the One. My name is Chris Hanlon, and today my special guest is somebody that's just bringing an abundance of meditation, breath work, and energy healing experience. Zach Rehder, thank you so much for being on my podcast today.
Thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, amazing. So I was just saying, we were talking off camera a little bit about both of our sort of a brief overview of our path to where we're at right now. And I think it's a powerful time on the planet for people as far as the awakening of mass consciousness. And I would love it if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit with some of our viewers today, how you got to the present moment. I always think it's fascinating to understand people's journey as it helps others in understanding their own path.
Yeah. I mean, I like to say dumb luck, like for how did I get here? Following one piece at a time, and I know that I didn't have any idea where anything was going. Um, there's this piece that's coming up. It was almost like when things really started to get magic is when I began to receive pain instead of run away from it, instead of try to control it or feel better. It was like to actually receive the painful, experiences, emotional, physical. I've just found there so many things. I always ask my clients, it's like, what if everything that you were looking for was found in the places you don't want to look? And so like these places that we're trying to overcome or get out of, it was like there's so much magic in these places for us. And if I look at what really opened so many doors for me, it was like the times where I got to sit in the thing that I didn't want to feel, or the thing I wanted to run away from. It was like those have held so many incredible openings for me.
Wow, that's really powerful. I know that resonates so deeply with me personally that pain was very transformative for me. Actually, as you said, not running from it, but having to really sit in it and go deeper. Like it forced me to look beyond the surface layer of what that pain was showing up in my life. So, yeah, I think that's probably triggering for some people. Like, we live in a society, I think, that chases pleasure a lot of the time, as I know I did for a lot of years. Um, but yeah, it sounds like looking into that shadow, looking into the darkness, that's where the gold can be found.
Yeah, well, and the pleasure is not bad, but it's right. We're um, I like to remind people, each one of us is a soul. Like we came here to experience all of the things, right? Like we didn't just come here to be happy the whole time. It's like, no, we came here to go into the depths and feel all of the things. That's been a very helpful mantra for myself. Like, when you're in it, of like, that's right, I came here to feel this too. I came here for this experience as well. And
Yes.
for me, that's all, it creates okay, I don't have to fight against this and I can receive whatever life is showing up for me today.
That's incredible. And I'm sure it was a journey to come to that level of understanding because I know for me, it wasn't like just waking up one morning and go, oh, yeah, I'm going to accept all the pain in my life as like something I've chosen. It took a while for that.
Yeah. Yeah. We mentioned that's like, by 18 years old, I started diving in and like just reading everything I could, taking every course, class, and I did that for 15 years, and I understood so many things about spirituality and personal development, all of these things. And so it's like I had all of this knowledge, but I wasn't any happier. Like I was still miserable. I was like, right, this isn't changing my life. My life still isn't what I want it to be. And that was this really profound series of events. One of them being, the voice of God came in one day and let me know, if you can understand it, that's not what it is. And it was just this realization of like, oh, I think I have everything figured out. And it's almost like the more that I understand something, the less magic it becomes. It just becomes this concept instead of like, again, this is another part of spirit, but I've decided it's just something what I understand it to be. And so it became this journey of unraveling and realizing that, right, who we really are, what we really are, why we're really here is beyond the stories that our mind is capable of processing. And so it's in realizing, and so it's like, right, how often are the times we think it's like, oh, this is a terrible feeling. And that story is actually in the way of receiving the gifts of like right? We find that it's not what I think it was over and over and over and over again. And so that's really how that opened up. It was like these things that we judge as like negative emotions. I think that's one of them just such a misunderstanding that creates so much pain and suffering. Because if I'm here and it's like, you know, or this example, it's like if we have happiness and sadness, and most people are like, oh, I want happiness and I don't want sadness. It's like, why? Because happiness feels better. Like, what if happiness feels better because we're more open to happiness, and sadness does not feel as good because we've closed ourselves off more to sadness? And so it wasn't the emotion that felt better or worse. It was where were we at, right? It's like our nature is to be open, and we find these places where we've closed, and it's like these are the places that hurt, that get tight, that that become really heavy in our lives.
That's so powerful. I think, yeah, I feel that. Like, I feel what you're saying because, I think it's that perception or judgment that we place on any perceived experience that puts that filter on it. And like you were saying, like, you know, it's been a practice, but I've come to a place in my life where everything is basically neutral. Everything is divine. Everything is of the one source. And if we're able to sit back and potentially see that, there usually is beautiful moments that are, I'm going to say, hidden from our current potential perception of reality, based on whatever blueprint we come in or whatever soul contract or however people like to term it. I think that's nearly like a treasure hunt for us to explore and go, hey, like if we're curious about it, we have the opportunity to, as you say, I love the word receive more of that gift. And I think you said something very powerful then at the beginning too about reading everything. Like I was on that path too. I was like, let me like read and study every like, spiritual book and every personal growth book. And I really started to sit more in the I don't know-ness of mysticism where I
Mhm.
believe creation is never finished. So how could I like my creating an identity or a thought around something only solidifies it for that period of time, but it's not necessarily truth anymore.
Mhm. Yeah, and we have 8 billion people on the planet, and they all see this a different way. No two people would agree on every single thing, and so it is. It's really it's. I learned it's like the way that I see things right now. It's like it's interesting. I'm not going to take it too seriously, because that obviously has changes over my life, and like if there was something that was ultimately true, like we would all agree on it.
Yeah.
But there's something to that ultimate truth that's like it's so much bigger than mind that our minds could never agree on it.
Yeah. That's so incredible. What's showing up for me, like, I think for a lot of people, so you said at 18 you started this journey, right? And obviously through that period of time, you either go to higher education, you have real jobs, like you show up in the real world during that period of time. Did you always have a feeling that like none of this fits, or like how did you sort of navigate that? I'll say like your 20s and whatnot.
Yeah, I think I mean I made a mess. I made all kinds of mistakes and got hurt in all kinds of ways. Eh, And that on this side of it, I see how valuable all of that was. So I wouldn't do any of it differently. But um, I know I had a mind that was very, very hard on myself. And so it was just excruciating self-judgment and criticism all the time. I used to race bikes. I was a professional athlete, and it was um, just a really, 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 really negative self-talk all the time. And there was never, I would say it was almost like if I hit a goal, if I did something good, it wasn't necessarily that didn't necessarily feel that good, but I got some relief for a little bit
Yeah.
of the judge, of the critic or whatever. And so um I love that I had that process because it just I sometimes joke around. It's like maybe I just wore out the self-criticism and then it just gave up.
Yeah.
But one of the things that really happened with it, one day I realized that I just had this realization of like I've never made a decision for myself. Like everything is through this filter of what are other people going to think? And it was disgusting because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever decided. It's always like, what are other people going to think if I do this or if I do that? And I realized how much of my energy was going into, trying to control how people saw me, was like, I don't want to be judged by people. And so how can I move around and, avoid all of that? And so that was like the first of these, I've created so many of these processes out of this practice because this one was so profound. But I realized it was like I started to give, bring in, started in meditation at first, bring in the important people in my life and truly giving them permission to judge me and feeling all the stuff. Like the magic is in the feeling. It's like all the stuff that comes up with that. So at first, my feels like I'm getting punched in the stomach. It's like I give you permission to judge me, and it's like, oh, right, there's so much tension in my system and all kinds of things happening in there. And so to sit and feel and open, it's like, and it got lighter and lighter and lighter, and it's like it got to this place where it's like it was mostly true. It's like I could give someone permission to judge me, and it was just there wasn't a resistance there. There wasn't a tension or anything like that. That created so much freedom in my life that I just started doing that with everything. Anytime I find a place of resistance or a place where it's like, oh, I don't want to do that, I've realized it's like I might do that, or I might have to go through that, or that might happen to me, and feeling all of the feelings that come up with that, and it just just it's like I kept finding so much more peace, like just really like there was less and less to fight against or less and less to try to control. Um, and so with that in that process, I realized I was like, I think it was a while before I realized, but I was like, I don't have an inner critic anymore. Like I don't remember the last time that there was like a negative self-judgment about myself. It's like it very much like dissolved in that process. And I still do silly things and I make mistakes on a regular basis. But but it doesn't mean that I'm wrong or bad. It's just like, yeah, we all make mistakes sometimes. So it just really opened up that whole just the tension and like the stuck energy in that whole game.
Yeah, I love that because I know I have a traditional business and I make mistakes all the time. And there's still an element of me at times when I make that mistake that I will, like, I can see it in the moment. I'm like, oh man, like that was so silly, you know? And I think the difference for me now is I can laugh about it very quickly. I just sort of transform that into a bit of a giggle. I'm just like, whatever. Like, it really doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. Like, what doesn't matter? But it's an awareness that it's there, and it resonates deeply as well. My wife was an ex-competitive figure skater. Um, she was literally judged, on the ice.
Yeah.
Like it's a very subjective sport. And so I've been able to work, like, I'm so blessed that we've been on this path of awakening together because I've got to not only have my own experience, but share a deep bond with her and her experience on it. And I think a lot of people, Zach, carry that inner critic that you talk about. And I think I think it nearly shows up from a place of wanting to, as you say, fit in and survive and not rock the boat. And like it's like how are we accepted within our community rather than the empowerment of no, no, like I'm here, I'm me, and people will love me for who I am, not for how I show up in the ways I think they want me to show up.
Yeah. It's interesting how our culture has capitalized on that, right? It's like it's marketing. Like all the marketing is like, right, you're not enough and you need to buy our stuff.
Yeah.
So so it's interesting how I think that's shown up in shows up in cultures in different ways. Interesting how ours does it. Um, I also think that that's a part of it's almost like a part of the ego. I think there's like this there is this foundational wrongness that you find in every ego, this like not enoughness or whatever it is. And there's almost like, I almost see it as a valuable part of almost like to truly come experience it yourself, like, right? Because you come here as a soul and it's like you really want to have this human experience of experiencing yourself as a separate thing, of disconnected, of not supported. It's like to truly do that, it's almost like you have to have some of these pretty big patterns and that not enoughness and that wrongness. It's almost like this necessary piece to have an ego. And and we all go through our journeys with that. That was a real thing for a long time. And we go through our journey and realizing it's like, That's not true at all,
Yeah.
right? It's just an idea.
Yeah, it's so powerful. It's the as you said, we came down here to experience duality, right? To then once again experience unity. Well, that's my belief, and it's part of that journey and process. And it's fascinating for me to watch. I've got three young kids, and yeah, to see that, they come down as unique individual beings. Like, they may have some biological markers that are similar from both of their parents, but their uniqueness and, as you said, that identity and ego that's forming. Um, yeah, it's interesting to observe because I feel I'm on a bit of a different path where I had this identity formed that that identity created the filters and patterns and beliefs that I held, which moved me through the world and how I perceived it. And now I'm sort of trying, as you say, I'm actually trying to dissolve so many of these identities within my own mind,
Mhm.
and getting back to like some core components of like curiosity. Um, I'm really, I'm really excited to see the creative potential when we're able to sit back in more of our own presence. And I'd actually love you to share a bit more on the feeling state because that's been my journey. I was very mental. I was very logic driven. Like it was very masculine in the way I can think my way through life. I can set a plan and I can go out there and achieve it. Whereas now sinking back into my body and, as you said, learning to how to feel and learning to like the creative state of feeling rather than the purely mental state, which worked for a while, but I've found for the last sort of probably 5 to 10 years, trying to create with my mind has been very difficult.
Yeah. I, I I think those that could hustle and create and like powerful mind stuff and where that used to work in the past, I think just for everyone that I've talked to, it was almost it's dwindling, it's diminishing, it's really fading away if it works at all anymore for some people. You said something that speaks to this as like there's feeling and then there's thinking that we're feeling, right? Because minds don't feel, right? That's not what they do. They think, they process, and it's often our mind that hijacks us from the feeling process. So I would like I'll give this example to people after after a breathwork group or after a retreat. I'll tell people, hey, things are right, like you're open. There's blocks that are no longer there. Energy can move in new ways, and so totally normal for things to be weird after this. Random emotions can come up out of nowhere, and they will. It's almost like everything that we haven't met fully. We've stored it or carried it around some way, and those things are always trying to come up. They're always trying to like nothing wants to be stuck. And so those emotions come up, and it's like our mind often hijacks from that. So if someone's been suppressing anger for their whole life and then they really open things up, and okay, things can move in new ways, it's like they're going to experience anger. And the mind is like, okay, that must be anger, and I must be angry because of something, and it will figure something out really quickly, what to blame it on or who to blame it on, or this is what this is. And now we've taken our awareness and presence, and now we're off in this interpretation of the experience rather than the actual experience that's happening. So I've been giving people this question for over a decade. I love this question of what if this doesn't mean what I think it means? Just as like a nice like mind, like, hey, let's set the idea of what I think is happening aside,
Yeah.
and just really be present with my experience right now. It's like what's happening right now. My two favorite tools in the world are breath and feeling. So it's it's like we can use our breath to open, to relax, and every time we relax more, we can feel more. We can
Yeah.
meet this on a deeper level. And
If you'd like, I'd love to get into a bit of the breathwork conversation with you, because I haven't had the opportunity to have a facilitator such as yourself on the podcast yet. And I know in my own life, some of the breathwork sessions and retreats I've done have been powerfully transformative. And, I've done plant medicines, I've done psychedelics, and I put breathwork up there and beyond that because of the the internal nature of it, I would say. Like it's a self-created, not even self-created, it's a self-experienced sort of journey that you go on. And we talk about it, I've had very pleasurable breath work experiences, and then I've had extremely painful breath work experiences. So I'd love if you could share with the viewers and listeners some of the breath work sort of techniques that you may use, and then the different experiences and how people find it transformative.
Yeah. Ooh, it's a big question. It could start a bunch of different places.
Yeah, sorry, a bit
I
of a
love,
loaded one, that one.
no, I love talking about the breath. Um, it is life force. It is spirit. Breath is, people think of it, right? It's it's just the oxygen or whatever, but there's so much more to breath. Um, I agree. Like, I've explored all of the things too, and it was like even in the plant medicine or psychedelic, it's like the breath was still with you, right? There was still a breath experience happening. It was still there. And so, yeah, I often, so at retreat, I take people through a powerful breath process. You're laying on the ground for an hour or so, just really flooding the body with life force. And then that's going to create some sort of healing experience, physical, mental, spiritual, some sort of experience. And people often have profound experiences. And yeah, often afterwards, I'll be like, right, this is a beautiful practice, but this is not necessary. This is just for all the times we didn't breathe. This is just for all of the times that we were someplace else, that we weren't present. And so, I think the most amazing practice of the breath is just to be with your breath right now. And
Mm,
I, I have this practice. It's just called lower, slower, deeper, softer, of just whatever you're doing, like how low, how slow, how deep, and how softly can you breathe? And it's just it's such it's a presence practice, and it doesn't take long of doing that, and someone can find themselves in a very different state. They're almost in a whole new dimension. Um, because that's the beautiful thing about breath work. It doesn't add anything to you. It doesn't give you anything that you don't already have. It uncovers what's here. And so people find the most incredible and the beautiful things, and it's like the most amazing things, and they were here the entire time.
yeah.
And so,
I like with the breath, I remember when I finally had the realization that, my breath's been with me this entire journey. It was here when I came in and it'll be here till I leave. And as you said, then you start to go, well, it's not just oxygen, right? It's prana, it's life force, it's consciousness itself.
yeah.
And I've been invited actually at the moment to teach some meditation, and I would call it very beginner breath work. For a local, like I'm in a rural country town, and there's a men's mental health initiative going on right now, which is great. Like we find in Australia that male suicide rates are higher in the country areas, and it's just fascinating to go and start sharing the stuff that for me is so second nature, I would say, with people that haven't had any conscious awareness of it.
Mhm.
I start every session with just three long, deep, conscious breaths together. And then I ask people, how do they feel? And immediately, they've been there 2 minutes and they're like, oh, like I already feel like so much calmer than I have in months.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's yeah, you talked about self-judgment before and that drive. I forget that it's the simple things at times that, as I said, I take for granted that for others can be extremely powerful and transformative if they haven't experienced them.
Yeah. It is so simple, and why wouldn't it be, right? Like, why wouldn't it be here? So, um, when it gets too complex, that's our ego, like making stuff up, right?
Yeah, for sure. The
Yeah.
mind loves to make things complex and solve problems, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, that's fascinating. So how did you find breathwork? Did you have that initial breathwork, like you went to a retreat yourself and you were like, oh my God, like this is,
Yeah. I was lucky, it wasn't as prevalent as it was today, like 26 or 27 years ago.
yep,
Um, and luckily there was somebody local that was doing holotropic breath work,
yep.
and and I was young. I used to think it was the coolest thing, just like how much energy that you could feel, just like, I mean, being electrocuted,
Yeah.
like so much. And so, that was the thing at first, and then with time and over the years, it's just deepened and deepened and deepened, and it's been such a beautiful journey, and then such an honor to be able to share it with people all over the country.
Yeah. It's I know I've only recently been called into the cold plunge world for a little bit, and not necessarily for the health benefits, that a lot of people maybe portray around it. It's the level of presence I find in there, and it brings me so much back to my breath, when I'm in there, and I'm fascinated at the feeling state that I'm aware of when I'm totally in the present moment in cold water, to the point where I'm actually being able to see the ripples of my heartbeat within the water because I'm just still. And it's such a peaceful experience, but it brings me back to the breath again. And then I get out and I do a little bit more conscious breathing once I'm out. And, it's just like that shot of spirit first thing, a triple shot of spirit that like
Mm.
just allows me to start my day. And no matter what transpires from there, I've sort of had that moment within myself of presence that, yeah, it's just so beautiful and it costs me nothing. It's, other than the investment of my time into ensuring that I make that space for self-care.
Mm. Beautiful. Yeah, I cold plunge every morning. I love it. So and it's a breath when well, if someone comes over and they haven't done it before, it's like I teach them like this is a breath practice. That's like just because if you um it's like being conscious not to lose your breath, right? When someone like if they start like hyperventilating or whatever, it's like, okay, you've lost your breath, you've lost your nervous system, and so come back and find it again. Like that's where the magic is. And I've heard from a lot of people with cold plunging. It's almost how that's really shown up in other areas of their life. It's almost like in other stressful situations, they're calm, cool, and collected. They're just so much more grounded. They have their breath. They're present and not being lost and off in the mind.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I've seen it shows up for me now. I've seen it in birth as well. And how powerful the breath is in creating an environment and experience um to move through such a transformative life experience for mothers, and I've seen I sort of get the shits a bit, Zach, in the movies, the way they portray childbirth, all this screaming and, like it's a very dramatized experience. And it's not to say some women don't have that, but I feel as if they were able to start showing women going with conscious awareness around their breath and creating a very beautiful experience of birth that could shift the whole collective consciousness around it.
I agree. Yeah, yeah. It's we're we're our culture is getting too far away of nature in so many ways, right? Here's the most natural thing, and they're loading people up with medicines and drugs. They have them in just the most unnatural places,
Yeah.
like giving birth. So
Yeah.
um, I agree. I feel like there's an awakening though happening in that. Like I see so many places. It's like there is this waking up happening. More people are like, this doesn't work, right? This doesn't feel right. And
Yes.
so I think you have more and more people going more natural in that and in so many other areas as well.
Yeah, like it's fascinating. You shared with me earlier that you're in Arizona in Sedona, and it's a place I've never been to, but my understanding is that it is a very high vibrational place. Um, I'm fascinated with the United States in general. I spent 10 years in Canada. I traveled to the States a bit, but mainly like sort of Seattle and like Montana and those sort of places. Um, do you think the US shows more than anywhere else this uh, awakening of duality as far as the indoctrination and conditioning on like being so deep on one hand, but then you have these beautiful areas that have been, I would say, deep spiritual anchors on your continent for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of considered India to be like the most of the extremes, but you absolutely see that in the US. Um, yeah, you see a lot of I think part of the awakening that's happening is like a lot of the shadow is coming up to the surface, and so we're seeing lots of that, like
Yeah.
lots of no, this was always here, but it wasn't being shown, and more of these things are coming up, and it's like that's how we heal anything. Like we have to, so for some of the things that look that don't look very good right now. Like, yeah, what if this is the process to just getting to this more beautiful world?
Yeah, I think the question you asked before about what if this isn't what I think it is, that's what like. I guess I articulate slightly differently, but that's the way I view the world and the way with like I don't personally I don't get into politics. I try and like when I look at my social media feed, I can see it's very much about things that are of interest to me opposed to things that are trying to shape the world in probably ways that I don't necessarily think are optimal. Um, but I try and pose that to people that are very invested in those sort of conversations is that, what if it isn't exactly what you think it is? What if all this is the divine manifesting in a way that is for our growth and evolution? And I think it comes back to core belief that people hold. And I know when I shifted my own core beliefs around what reality really is, it's freed me up to actually experience life in a more beautiful way. And that includes the pain, that includes the sadness, that includes it all. And um, a great friend and teacher of mine, she sort of said that we think enlightenment is getting to this place of pure bliss and joy, but as we expand, we actually have the opportunity to experience everything in more depth because that's what we want to do. Like it's not that we just want to. The mind wants to go, yeah, oh, enlightenment is like we're just going to be all zened out and this is what it is. Whereas I love that perception of no, like we're here for the full gamut of emotion, the full gamut of
Hmm.
feeling, and just to have more and larger and more expanded awareness of it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. Um, I have I think of this like if my definition of like a master here would be someone that is not trying to control the way that they feel.
Mm, love it. Yeah.
So it's just like right receiving that because and there's really hard things, right? There's really uncomfortable things here to feel. It's like right, it's really hard to look at the news and see some of the things that are happening in the world or um, people watching things getting taken away from them or whatever it is. It's like those are all really, really difficult
Yeah.
or challenging things to feel. And those are where some of the most those are where we find some of the most beautiful pieces of ourselves, right? It's
Yeah.
like, hey,
That's so,
let me
yeah.
no, go
Sorry,
ahead.
go.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say that's what my kids give to me. Like that's been, I sort of joke that since having kids, my time for like exercise and, I used to be a religious hour meditation every morning, and since having kids, a lot of that stuff changes. And I've realized my every day is my meditation. I do find smaller spaces for what I consider more traditional meditation, but really presence as a practice day in, day out. That's been my transformation. And my children are the biggest part of that. And my relationship with my wife is a huge part of that because you just said it. Like sometimes it's hard to sit back and watch ones we love go through their journey and their experience and without wanting to jump in and fix. That's been a big part for me is like, especially with my wife, we're great at we've got a big thing about taking responsibility in our relationship for our own emotions. And even though if somebody else triggers us, it's our emotion. It's not them. So we have a great laugh about it. Like, and yeah, I've seen her go through painful experiences, it's been initially it was really hard to sit back. Whereas now being able to sit in my own presence, I realize that's the most powerful thing I can do and allow her the space, but from a place of safety. And that's our belief with parenting is if we create a space of safety for our children to go through all of their emotions, um, and that's what they do. Like I know personally there were emotions that wouldn't have been safe in our household. It would have been dealt with punishment. And I love my parents. They did the best they could based on their conditioning and programming. But
Mhm.
we often joke when our kids are having meltdowns, I'm like, oh man, they must feel safe because they are expressing to a pretty high level right now what's coming up for them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Somebody told me a long time ago that I kept patting everyone's rock bottom,
Yeah.
and that was like this that was this real that just hit me and really showed me of like, oh, right, they keep doing the same thing over and over because it doesn't hurt enough because you keep helping them, like you keep making it more comfortable for them.
Yeah.
And so there is that. It's like, right, you need to feel this. Like this is, yeah, what is this? What is this here for? What is this trying to show you? What does this need?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people like that are watching loved ones go through tough stuff like that? Because it's never easy, you know. I know I have a brother-in-law right now that is very, very invested in global politics and alternative media, and you can see he's consumed by it, you know. And I know the family's a bit worried about him, and like my version of is I love him from a distance. I send him my presents, you know, I, you know, connect with him when possible, but he's not in a place, he's not open to listen to anything else. And I actually think that pushes people deeper sometimes into their belief. So I'm wondering if you have any sort of thoughts around that.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine probably everybody has family members going through hard stuff these days. Um, there's, I know for me, there's a difference of like, I came from, I came like, I want to help everybody. There's this interesting realization that I had too, where it was like, oh my gosh, I wanted to help people not be sad because I don't like feeling what I feel around
Mm,
somebody that's sad. And so it was actually around like, let me make you happy so that I can be comfortable. So there's that, and we all were born into that, and we have some version of that. And so it's like we got to kind of like look at, okay, I know I want to help everybody, and let's set that aside. And really like following our hearts and feeling like, hey, is there something to do right now? Right? Because often like sometimes the greatest thing we can do for someone is to tell them no, is to, right? That was the thing that turned into the series of events that where they had the awakening from it, because they got so mad at me for telling them no, and it turned into this thing. And but then they're thanking me later because it actually became this process of deeper healing for them. So um you I like to say like if we can really be in our hearts for all of these things, and it's like know when it is time to say something, when it's time to just hold space, to just leave it alone. I had a mentor, he had this funny sentence that he said about facilitating that I thought was the greatest thing. He talked about, to be a facilitator, he's like, it's 99% waiting, 1% boom. And
I
so,
love that. Yeah.
right. So, because again, it's like there's so often of the time, I was like, there's not a door open, right? There's no way. Like someone can't hear what you would say right now.
Mm,
And it's like if we can wait, that actually like gives us the possibility of having a door. But if we're always like, let me help you, let me help you, let me help you, it's like we never get that space for the possibility of like, okay, now wait, now it feels like there's something different. Now maybe this
yeah.
person could now maybe this person could hear what I'd say.
Oh, just feeling into that, even Zach, like the thought I have is that if I trust that there's a divine consciousness that's flowing through me and expressing through me and overseeing my life in some way, can I trust enough that that same consciousness is looking after that person that's going through their journey in a way that I can't understand right now?
Yeah. And I know for me, like I'm so grateful that nobody ever took any of my suffering away from me. Like I like now I'm like I needed all of it. Right. And,
Totally.
and as hard and as deep it was like, thank you that nobody took that away from me. And I think as we realize that in ourselves as well, like how important like so much of that pain was, of like, wait, I don't want to take that away from somebody. Like, I have this process with people. It's like, I don't want you to feel any better, but do you want to feel it together?
Yeah.
Right? Like if we can just sit and feel all of this together. And so it's like that can be so powerful. Right? A lot of the things that people are stuck in, one of the reasons that they're stuck in it is because they do believe that they're alone in it. They think that
Mm,
this is just mine, this is just my trauma, this is just my feelings. And I think we all come to find out there's no such thing as my anything.
mm,
And and
mm.
so and so if and so those are the things that we really get stuck in, because it's like this doesn't belong to me, but I'm trying to hold it like it is.
Yeah.
That's going to create suffering.
Oh, like my the major event in my life that was the catalyst for my transformation was a divorce, which at the time I felt so isolated, so lonely, such a failure. Growing up in a Catholic family, you don't get divorced. It like all of those emotions showed up. And I remember the isolation you're talking about, and then the physical isolation that I put myself through because of the
Mhm.
shame I was feeling and all that sort of stuff. And then one day, like I was seeing this therapist and she was great. And she recommended a retreat. And I went there and I saw all these other people going through similar experiences. And I started to realize, she said, I'm not alone. And then I started to think about, hang on, what's the divorce rate on the planet right now? I'm like, oh, I'm certainly not alone. Like, so it was this step-by-step recognition that I'm not alone in this. It's a collective experience. It's one that I'm having right now. And I tell people, like, from that moment of despair to the beauty that is my life today, like that blossoming, same as yourself, like what atom of my past would I change? Because if that was going to change any of what I have right now, like there's no way I'm going back and changing it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I love that concept that you're speaking of is if we don't feel isolated, maybe we can just relax into that emotion a little bit more and feel it, as you say.
Yeah. Well, and you spoke to the shame, and it's like the shame is only powerful when it's buried, when it's hidden, when we're like this, right? I don't want this to be seen. Soon, when that gets to come up and be seen, and it's like we realize we're all the same, it's it's like I was a joke of, it's like I was shameful for having hands, and it's like we all have hands. It's like you don't need to hide your hands. Like it's
Yeah,
we all have all of these feelings. We've all had things that we made ourselves wrong or bad or not good enough for. And one like tool that I like to introduce to people of like, just really remembering of like when we did find the moments of like just of truth, right? Of deep connection, of just like, oh, alignment. It's like, what does that feel like, right? It feels really open or expansive or really grounded or peaceful. It's like it's somewhere on the it feels really great scale, like when we find truth. And if we realize like how accurate that is, it's like then and really see what do some of those thoughts feel like, right? It's like I'm not good enough because I got divorced. And it's like it hurts so bad because it's so far away from the truth.
from the truth. Yeah,
And it's and that is it was like that's this beautiful game here. It's like when we lie to ourselves, it hurts, right? When we lie to ourselves, pain comes in. It's like, hey, so
yeah,
something's off here.
yeah,
Let's look at this some more. And we realize it's like, wait, this wasn't that I was wrong or bad or deficient. I didn't mess up. Like there were some of these experiences that we all signed up for that were like, I'm going to go through this really hard thing. And that's going to be such a catalyst for waking me up for who I really came here to be and what I came here to do and create. And so,
yeah,
um, and this conversation is, some people on the other side of some of these things are like, yeah, they've had that experience. This conversation, when we're in the very middle of it, it's not as helpful. And so,
yeah,
like for those that are in the middle of something, even if we pose like this question of like, what if this is here to serve me in some way? What if there is something to receive from this? What if this isn't as bad as I think it is?
mm,
And we just start giving it that room and really start to, I think the magic is in feeling the feelings.
yeah,
Because like those are that our mind is always trying to do something. It's like let's blame it on somebody. And it's like that was a way to take us out of the feelings.
yeah,
Or on and on and on. It's like the feelings are where so much of the magic is. And so that's just always my process of like let's be with the feelings first, and then let's see what I know about it, and then let's see if there's anything to do about it.
yeah.
And
You just got me thinking too, like those questions you were posing, they're all what if questions, which is
oh,
curiosity, right? And
totally.
lately for me, because I'm where I'm at right now, the what if is more of a creative, excuse me. I feel it from a place of what if showing up next from a creative, expansive viewpoint. But even that question in a place of despair, I can see the creative nature of the what if question actually creates a bit of space, and as you said, that then can allow the feeling to actually be felt rather than the mind sort of just overriding it. And as you said, assigning blame, assigning meaning to something that typically
Yeah.
isn't true, right?
Yeah. 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 So and again, it's those places. It was like, right, we were always avoiding that. Like our system was always trying to do something to not feel that. And it's like when you can just feel it, like game over for that thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. So a little bit more practical, Zach, like the way you show up in the world and serve right now. So, would you mind sharing, like, I believe you do retreats. Do you do one-on-one sessions as well? Like, how can people connect with you a little bit deeper and potentially have some of these experiences with you?
Yeah, I've been in this period of I've been letting go of quite a few things. I'd been doing one-on-one sessions for like the last 15 years, and it was just this last month. It was kind of like this knowing of like, oh, okay, these are done.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel very much in this process of I feel like I keep letting go of things, like I keep making room, like the different ways that I was uh, I've been going pretty hard for a long time too, so I
Yeah.
think there's a taking care of myself even more.
Mhm.
Um, but I still I'm on the road a lot doing breathwork events all across the U.S. I do like six or so retreats a year in Sedona, and then do some different classes. They're all of them are going to have some breathwork base to them. So I don't know anything that's more profound of healing, of opening, of awakening as the breath. So
Yeah.
that's that's uh that's always going to be a part of everything I do.
Amazing. Obviously, I'll put details in the show notes, but is there a website where people can find you?
Yeah, my website is zachrehder.com, and that always has my upcoming schedule.
Incredible, Zach. Look, I've truly enjoyed today. Thank you so much for making the time and bringing your presence to this conversation because I think it's super powerful for people to understand that probably the number one tool that they could ever want, they've had all along,
Yeah.
and that learning to relax into and use it is super powerful. So whether it's through one of your retreats or through whatever other avenue they find it, I feel now that what if breath could be what they're desiring to help them transform is a great place to start. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on today, Zach.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
amazing. And guys, as always, if this has resonated with you, please subscribe and like because this Expressions of the One is all about expanding conversations in consciousness and bringing others to the table in this time of mass awakening. So, thank you so much, and look forward to seeing everybody in the next podcast.